You ready? Okay. All right. It is 5:30 p.m. on February 22nd, 2021. Good evening, everyone. I am Mayor Shelley Carlson. The Moorhead City Council is holding its regularly scheduled meeting using virtual meeting technology under an emergency declaration due to COVID-19. I am in the City Council chambers with City Manager John Shockley, or Dan Molly, City Attorney John Shockley, City Clerk Christina Rust, and a few other staff members. Some council members are attending in council chambers while others are attending remotely. Any public comment received prior to this meeting will be read as part of the record during the applicable agenda item. The public may participate during the meeting by calling 218-299-5001. Public input will be taken by a staff member and provided to me to read during the meeting. Or you may request that your call be bridged to the virtual WebEx meeting and speak directly during our public hearings or citizens addressing the council agenda item. Again, the public comment line is 218-299-5001. If there is no answer, please leave your message or and a callback number. So I'm calling the meeting, City Council meeting to order. If we could have a roll call, please.
Shelley Dahlquist.
Here.
Matt Gilbertson.
Here.
Laura Caroon.
Here.
Deb White.
Here.
Larry Seljevold.
Here.
Chuck Hendrickson.
Here.
Steve Lindos.
Here.
And Mayor Shelley Carlson.
Here. Now if we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Next on the agenda, any agenda amendments, City Manager Molly.
There are none tonight.
Okay. And the next is a consent agenda item. Do I have a motion, or has anything been requested to be moved off the consent agenda item?
We've not, that is a request that has not been made.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
As is. Councilmember Hendrickson
Second.
and Seljevold second. Could I have a roll call, please?
Sorry, who was the first?
Hendrickson and Seljevold.
Dahlquist.
Yes.
Gilbertson.
Aye.
Caroon.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Seljevold.
Aye.
Hendrickson.
Aye.
Lindos.
Yes.
All right, consent agenda passes. Next is recognitions and presentations. Marcus Krieger will be presenting on Black History Month. Thank you, Marcus.
All right. For the presentation to come out. Oh. Well, I'm Marcus Krieger. I'm the programming director for the Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County at the MCOM Center here. And I'd like to thank everyone for inviting me to talk about a project that we're doing in honor of a very interesting person who we are working to build a statue for Felix Battles. Felix was an early African-American pioneer of Moorhead. He was born enslaved. He escaped slavery, fought in the Union Army in the Civil War, and moved to the frontier city of Moorhead in the 1870s, where he was called the Pioneer Barber of the Red River Valley. Clay County Archivist Mark Peel has been keeping a file on Felix for about 30 years now, so he's well known to all of us museum people, but we've always been looking for a project to make him better known in the community. So a few years ago, when Civil War monuments were in the news, And America was talking about how we should remember the Civil War, who should our heroes be. I thought to myself, you know who deserves a statue is Felix Battles. And then I thought to myself, well, I'm an artist. I know a lot of other artists. Moorhead is an arts town. We have murals devoted to our zip code and beer flavors. Why don't we have a statue? Why we could do this? We could have a statue for Felix Battles. So first I'll tell you, who is Felix Battles? Felix was born enslaved near Memphis about 1843. We first see his name here, if you can see where the red line, the red arrow is. He's listed in the estate of William Dawson. He's a plantation owner in Holly Springs, Mississippi in 1856. And it says Felix is probably about 13 years old here, and it says that his life is worth $600. And one of the things that makes this page especially disgusting is that there are 4 people on this list whose lives are valued at $1. So this isn't a good page, but the next time we see Felix's name in a document is good. He's not in, it's 1860, he's not in Mississippi anymore, he's in Iowa, Dubuque, Iowa. He's free. We don't know exactly what happened, but he escaped slavery. He's living with 3 people that share his last name. They're old enough to be his mother and brothers. So we don't know the story, but it's got to be a good one. Eventually, he finds his way to St. Paul, Minnesota. And in St. Paul in 1864, as the Civil War is raging, in August of 1864, he joins the United States Army. He is one of 106 Minnesotans of African descent to join the Union Army. Corporal Battles returned to the South as part of the 18th United States Colored Infantry Regiment. It's a unit consisting of men mostly who, like Felix, were born enslaved, freed themselves, and joined the U.S. Army in order to end America's system of slavery once and for all by destroying the Confederacy. And they did it. More than 209,000 African American men served in the Union Army, and without them, we would have lost that war. That's not me saying that, Abraham Lincoln said that. But for most of the past 150 years, the accomplishments of the United States colored troops have been intentionally overlooked and unjustly covered up. And after the war, within a few years of Moorhead's birth, Felix Battles is working here as a barber. Again, the newspaper called him the pioneer barber of the Red River Valley. In the photo there's a picture of the J. Cook House. That's a fancy hotel in Moorhead. It's where it's on Center Avenue and 8th, where the Wells Fargo Bank is today. He had a barber shop here in the 1880s. And also inset in the picture is a census record. He's got a big family living with him. It's Felix, his wife Kate, his son Richard, and then a lot of Kate's siblings, mom, they come to Moorhead too. And these families, the Gills, the Harrises, the Taylors, and the Battles, they helped to form Fargo Moorhead's original African American community. And our museum is doing research on these families right now in preparation for an exhibit at the MCOM Center in March of 2022 about this early Fargo Moorhead African American community. Felix Battles died here in 1907. So in May of 2018, we asked the people of Moorhead if they'd like a statue of Felix Battles, and we invited people to a presentation about him at Junkyard Brewing Company. And I'm happy to say we raised enough money for the statue before I got on stage to talk to people about him. If you come to the MCOM Center in Moorhead right now, we have an exhibit about local Clay County Civil War veterans downstairs on the 3rd floor. And you can see in that's the photo there, you can read about Felix and see the evolution of the statue project, the design of it. There are no known photographs of Felix Battles, so I took this photograph of an unidentified Union soldier. I turned it into a stencil. I blew it up so that the figure was 5 foot 8 inches tall, because from records, we know that Felix was 5 foot 8 inches tall. Moorhead artist and civil engineer Lyle Landstrom translated that image into steel. And so we're going to cut him out of a big thick sheet of steel, and he will be accompanied by an interpretive panel that talks about his life and early Moorhead. And for the last 2 years, we've been working on finding the right spot to place it, which is actually the hardest part of the project because it turns out it's a lot more difficult than just digging a hole and pouring concrete. You got to get permissions from people and fill out paperwork and stuff like that. In the next few weeks, we have had a few sites fall through, so that's why it's not in the ground yet. But in the next few weeks, I'll be submitting some paperwork to the Moorhead Arts and Culture Commission proposing a new site for the statue, and hopefully we can get him in the ground in the coming months and have a big celebration. So I guess briefly in closing, I think a statue of Felix Battles would call attention to this man's fascinating life, and I think the fact that I'm here right now shows that it already has. A statue of him in uniform would be one of only a handful of monuments across our country marking the crucial and essential contribution to African Americans in winning the Civil War. And the statue will call attention to the fact that African Americans and other people of color were among Moorhead's early pioneers. They've been here from the beginning. And I think that's an especially important message to highlight when I see the diversity among Moorhead's kids that come to the museum on school tours. So I guess I'd like to thank you for letting me talk about Felix Battles in this project.
Thank you so much, Mr. Krieger. I think it's pretty incredible that you already have the funding to build the statue, and we look forward to hearing where it's going to be located in the city. So with that, I'm going to read the official proclamation of the City of Moorhead, State of Minnesota. Whereas in 1926, famed African-American historian and scholar Dr. Carter G. Woodson, son of former slaves, established Black History Week to celebrate accomplishments and achievements made by Black Americans to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development as a nation. And whereas Dr. Carter G. Woodson valued education and believed that it was never too late to learn, and that it is beneficial for all Americans to continue to learn about the heritage and experiences of all Americans. And whereas it is through learning that we become enlightened and come to understand each other more clearly. And whereas in 1976, President Gerald R. Ford designated the entire month of February as Black History Month and urged Americans to seize the opportunity to honor too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. And whereas the City of Moorhead strives to be a welcoming and enlightened community, now therefore I, Shelley Carlson, Mayor of the City of Moorhead, do hereby proclaim February as Black History Month. In witness whereof, I've set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Moorhead to be affixed this 22nd day of February 2021. I also think it's important to note that there are two very influential Black citizens in Moorhead who have made their own history, and that would be former Mayor Jonathan Judd and also Rachel Stone, who is on the current school board. Okay. Moving on, we are going to have a presentation on ranked choice voting, and I believe Lisa Bodie will be kicking this presentation off.
Thank you, Mayor Carlson, and good evening to members of the City Council. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce Senator Tent Eakin to share background with you on ranked choice voting. I'll just say that Senator Eakin is always working diligently on behalf of Moorhead in numerous ways, and it's rare, if it ever has been, that we get to have him join us at a council meeting. So welcome to Senator Eakin. And we also have, I see Representative Keeler has joined us tonight too. I wasn't sure she would be able to because I know that she has House session tonight. So thanks for joining us, Representative Keeler. Our two elected state representative and senator have recently introduced a bill, as I understand, to standardize ranked choice voting procedures across Minnesota. And Senator Eakin has been asked to share a bit more about this with the City Council. And other guests that we have with us tonight on this topic include Jean Massey and Liz Johnson of an organization called Fair Vote Minnesota that's working statewide on this issue. And then before I turn it over to Senator Eakin, I'll also note that there have been this afternoon, some citizens have asked to speak to this issue. And since this is a presentation, we've asked them to come forward under item 7, which is citizens to be heard. So thank you, and take it away, Senator Eakin. But you're still muted. Can you unmute?
Sorry about that. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate Mayor and members of the City Council, the opportunity to speak with you on this issue today. I think this is a very important issue. It's about democracy. And one of the issues that we have today and that we've been facing in many elections under the current system is a situation where the less popular candidate sometimes wins office. And that's because in our current system, you don't need to win a majority of the popular vote. You simply need to win a plurality. So that means if you have a race of 3 or more candidates that are running, it's possible that the less popular candidate could actually prevail and could win if the more popular candidates are splitting up the votes among each other. And I'll give you just one example of how that may happen. Let's say you have 3 candidates that are running for the state legislature for Moorhead. 2 of them want to increase local government aid. 1 wants to eliminate it. Let's say that 60% of the people in Moorhead want to increase local government aid, but only 40% want to eliminate it. But if you have 2 candidates that both want to raise local government aid, splitting the votes up among each other, you could end up with a situation where one gets 25%, the other one gets 35%, for a total of 60%. But the candidate with only 40% ends up winning by a plurality, even though 60% of the people were not in favor of their position. So that's just an example. I'm simplifying it to make it easier to understand. Obviously, there's multiple issues that are being dealt with during a campaign. So I think one of the problems with that as well, our current system, winning by plurality, it actually discourages third-party candidates from running because they know that they're simply going to take votes away from the candidate that's closest to them on the issues and probably throw the race to the minority candidate who's less popular. So for that reason, it actually squeezes out third parties. And we have a solution here. It's called ranked choice voting. I like to refer to it as instant runoff because I think it's simpler to understand. But what it does is it requires that you have to win a majority of the popular vote in order to hold office. And you have to win that popular vote on the general election day. And you do it through a system of runoffs. If nobody gets a majority in the first round, they will then look at the second choice that people have for those that were dropped off who came in last place and recalculate. It's actually quite simple. It's basically a runoff election that's being done more efficiently because instead of calling people back again at a later date to have a runoff between the top vote getters, which is much more expensive, which also decreases and depresses the number of people that turn out to vote because not as many will come back again. Instead of doing that, we're saying let's just do it in the same day. While you're here, in case your candidate comes in the last place and gets eliminated, who would you choose next? So you don't have to come back again later to have a runoff election. You can do it right now in a much more efficient, cost-effective way. So I think that I think this is something that will greatly improve our system and ensure that the will of the people prevails. That's what democracy is all about, ensuring that the will of the people will prevail. It will encourage more third-party candidates to run, which means people get more choices to choose from. And I think that's what people want, is more choices in our election system. It means there will be more voices in the process. So more choices and more voices is a win-win for the people of Minnesota. It'll also lead to more civil campaigns because when you have multiple candidates that are running, candidates are more likely to focus on their own reasons for running, their own issues, why they want to serve rather than what's so bad about the other person or the other candidate. And we've had too much incivility in politics today. So this will improve the civility, increase the civility in our campaigns. So for those reasons, I think this is something that is definitely worthy of consideration. I think we in Minnesota take pride in being a leader in the country when it comes to democracy and ensuring that the people's voice is being heard. And this would be one big step in that direction, and that it would ensure that the will of the people will be heard and will prevail in future elections. And with that, Representative Keeler is also here, as you said, Lisa, along with Jean Massey and Liz Johnson. I'd like to give them an opportunity to speak as well.
I can go. I will just jump in. Hello, it's great to see all of you. I will echo everything that Senator Egan said. A little bit of a different angle with the third party. We hear about these spoiler elections where somebody will come in just to kind of take some votes away. That's very intentional. So I think this is a way to do that. But we hear it all the time that people want your voices heard, and that's extremely important. And this is a way to do that, that you can like more than one candidate. I feel like right now in a world we have to feel so divided. It helps for healthy campaigning. You're building strong relationships with your constituents. We did it during our endorsement process, and it was a really easy conversation to have with people to say, if I'm not your first vote, could I, work towards earning your second vote? And it gives people an opportunity to really find the good in all the candidates, rather than this or them type of a mentality. I will also say it is a door to open up the opportunity for more of our diverse population and people that you maybe don't typically see in leadership feel like there's an opportunity to step in and run and just start those conversations and start moving towards leadership possibilities. And so, I think it's really a way to turn and start to go down a path where we see more inclusive leaderships, but also just a more community kind-led campaigning. I'm obviously in full support of it. I'm a co-author on the House side, and Senator Egan and I are also working on some other bills around this as well. Thank you.
Members of the council, mayor, and Senator Kent and Representative Keeler, I might just add this about the nature of the bill and the importance for a community like Moorhead. The bill has two pieces. The first is it provides the option for any community that wants to do ranked choice voting, the power to do that, levels the playing field. So even if you don't have a charter, you can do this. Moorhead has a charter, but you also hold elections in even years. So there are administrative challenges with putting a ranked ballot in an even year ballot along with federal and state candidates. So as earlier presented, it irons out those administrative barriers to implementing ranked choice voting should Moorhead want to do this. And you're not making any decision tonight whether or not this is good for Moorhead. You're really just asking if this legislation is worthwhile supporting as a resolution of support so that you have the opportunity to consider it as a community and see if this does make sense for you as it has for other communities. The other piece of the bill is the statewide option, which Senator Egan was addressing, which would mean that this would be used for state and federal offices from the presidential primary on down through state legislative offices. So what's being asked is for the communities to support a resolution of support for the local options piece that would allow a Moorhead and other communities to do this if the community decided it was right for you.
Thank you, Ms. Massey. Ms. Bodie, was there an additional person that was going to speak?
Liz Johnson is with us also, and she and Jean work for the same organization. Ms. Johnson, did you have anything you wanted to add to the remarks? You are muted, Liz.
I'm available for questions if there are any.
I just thought if I could speak briefly again, Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Eakin.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's important to note that this isn't something that's brand new, that's never been tested. It has been tested in many different local cities, different areas around the country. There's other states that have been implementing this, a couple of other states. So this is something that has been tried and tested, and the people have really liked this system where it has been implemented. It's not as complicated as some people would like you to believe it is. It's actually quite simple. It's an easy system for people to use. They simply come in and they can rank their candidates based on who they like most. And again, it's simply designed to ensure that the will of the people will prevail. And it's important that Jean had pointed out that this is something that would just be allowed for cities and townships and counties and school districts if they so choose. If this legislation passes, they would be able to implement this. It doesn't force anyone to do it at the local level. It would require it to be done at the state level for legislative races, for constitutional offices, including the governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, and so on. And it would require it for members of Congress and for the presidential race. And I think that, again, it's a timely issue because obviously there's a lot of questions about democracy right now and the importance of democracy and making sure that, again, that the will of the people prevails. And that's all this bill is about. It's just to ensure that the will of the people will prevail.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Senator Eakin, Representative Keeler, Ms. Massey, and Ms. Johnson for presenting. Just for citizens listening in and watching, typically our presentations don't include a Q&A between council members and the individuals presenting. So we just thank you very much for bringing this information and presenting to our council tonight. I hope you guys have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to approval of the minutes. If I could have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Councilmember Seldgevold moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Gilbertson. If I could have a roll call, please.
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Gilbertson,
Aye.
Caroon,
Yes.
White,
Sorry, having trouble with my mic. Yeah, yes.
Seldgevold,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Lindos.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Approval passes. And now we are at citizens addressing the council. Madam Clerk, are there any citizens who wish to address the council?
Yes, I have a Josh Morrison on the line.
Okay. All right, Mr. Morrison, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to thank the city council members, the mayor, Representative Keller, Senator Eakin, and Liz Johnson. I want to first ask how citizens of Moorhead feel about the rolling blackouts and the sub-zero temperatures. And also another segue in that question would be is how do you feel about the current grid system?
Yep, and I'm going to just, Mr. Morrison, I'm going to quickly interrupt you because it's important to note that when we have citizens addressing the council, this is your opportunity to have 3 minutes before council. It's not a Q&A where you ask questions and our council responds. This is just for us to gather information. So I'm going to have you say your name and state where you live first before you begin, and then if you have information to give to us, you can go forward with that. But if you have questions, we'll take those questions in consideration, but it's not going to be a back and forth kind of a dialogue. So just so you're aware of that.
Yes, I'm aware of that. My name's Josh Morrison. I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm actually addressing the committee because of the concern about the overstrained grid system that the state has, and I'm thinking of or trying to come up with solutions as to preventative ways to have a backup contingency plan. So in the event that black swan events happen in Texas and Oklahoma don't happen in the north, when we get down to minus 50, it gets really, really cold. So yeah, that's my topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I appreciate you calling in. Madam Clerk, are there any other additional citizens wishing to address the council?
Yes, I also have on the line Edwin Hahn.
Okay. Mr. Hahn, can you hear us?
I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Yep. If you can please state your name and address, and then we will restart the clock, and you have 3 minutes to address the council. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Edwin Hahn. I live in Moorhead, Minnesota, and I'm representing a community group here at Moorhead called Moorhead United. And we're speaking specifically to the presentation by Senator Eakin and Ms. Keeler, Representative Keeler, regarding ranked choice voting. So we are very strongly opposed to ranked choice voting for many reasons. Number one, it's extremely complex. It adds to the already difficult method of voting and counting of votes, as we saw one of the most corrupt, unethical, and materially illegal elections that happened in the state of Minnesota in 2020, led by the DFL representatives and leadership. And so for those DFL representatives to present a new way of voting, which this actually isn't a new way of voting. Ranked choice voting has been presented in the United States for 10 to 12 years, and it's been adopted by multiple states, and it's become such a mess in those states that they have rescinded ranked choice voting, and so much so that even Maine declared ranked choice voting unconstitutional at one point. And so the complexity of ranked choice voting adds to voting errors as well as counting errors. It causes voter fatigue, so it makes it very difficult to understand the process, to audit the process. But we already have a process that works very well through the primary system, where you can field as many candidates as you like and bring those forth and then be able to choose multiple, from a large swath of candidates. And so from our perspective, definitely we are strongly opposed to ranked choice voting for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hahn. Is there any additional citizens who wish to address the council tonight?
None at this time.
Are there any attending in person who wish to present?
Yes, am I on mute? Off mute? Am I on mute? Oh, hello. I'm Sahan, and I guess I just had some questions to consider with the ranked choice voting.
Ma'am, are you wishing to address the council?
Yes, so
Okay,
for the council to consider.
Okay, can you please state your name and your address? And then we will start our clock at 3 minutes. And again, any questions, we won't be engaging in a dialogue where council will not be responding to questions.
Okay, well, it's to consider when you're going through the process. So I'm Lisa Hahn. My address, my home address?
Yes.
It's Moorhead, Minnesota. So as you're considering the ranked choice voting, we need to consider, are there going to be, if there's going to be limits to the number of candidates you're going to allow? Is it unlimited, so you can have 50, 100, like how many, at what point are you going to have a limit to those candidates? So to consider that, and then also who is going to prioritize which candidates are on the ballot and which ones aren't. Granted, there are a large number of people who want to be considered. So just to consider those things, and which adds to the complexity of the process. And who is going to be the judge of that? Is it going to be a fair selection of Republicans and Democrats making those decisions, or is it just going to be one party making that decision? So we need to make sure that there's equality in that process. So just to be considerate of the number of people and how you're going to choose who those people are, that there's equality and fairness in that process. That's what I have to say for you to consider.
Okay, thank you so much. Yep. And are there any other citizens that are wishing to address the council tonight?
None at this time.
Okay. And nobody present in the council chambers? No? Okay, thank you. All right, we will move on to a public hearing regarding abatement of property taxes for participating properties in the Make Moorhead home property tax rebate. And could I have a motion to open
Steve Lindas moves to open a public hearing.
Councilmember Lindas motioned. Do I have a second?
Second.
Salderveld second. The hearing is open, and I'm going to turn over to Joshua Huffman with Community Development.
Madam Mayor, we'll actually do a roll call to
Oh, yep, we do need to do that. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can you do a roll call, please?
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Gilbertson,
Aye.
Caroon,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Seljevold,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Lindas.
Yes.
Okay. Meeting is open now. I will turn it over to Joshua Huffman.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? A wave. Good. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight, you are asked to hold this public hearing, and after the hearing, consider adopting the 2-year property tax abatement for the Make Moorhead Home Property Tax Rebate Program. This home ownership program was initiated in 2012 to support new construction of homes in Moorhead. Attached in your packet is a resolution and a list of properties that qualify for the abatement. The Make Moorhead Home program was authorized by state statute a number of years ago. This year's round has already been approved by Clay County as well as the school district. They've held their hearings and approved their portion of the abatement. The total property tax amount rebated is $223,921.60 to support new homeowners in 261 new homes in Moorhead. Once approved, Clay County is responsible for managing the distribution of rebate payments to homeowners. The homes receiving the rebates were built in 2018 and 2019 under a program already approved by the council prior to the construction of those homes. The hearing and public notice are statutory disclosures for this incentive program. I'll note that the taxes are rebated, so the owners only get a rebate at the end of the year if they've paid the taxes. And lastly, the Make Moorhead Home Property Tax Rebate Program was renewed last fall by the city, county, and school through 2022. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Are there any comments related to the public hearing? Comments or questions? Okay. Councilmember White has her hand up. Councilmember White?
Thank you, Josh. When I was looking this over on page 10 of the packet, it talks about that the program is in 2018 that they passed this in support of not just for new build, but also for improvement to existing residential properties. And I wanted clarification on that because I know we currently are only giving support for new build. And so is that correct that we actually passed when we passed this in 2018, it was for both new build and improvements to existing property? And if so, what are we doing to support that aspect of it?
Thank you for that question. I'm glad you actually brought that up. That was an error. I noticed that just this afternoon that sentence was included in there, and it shouldn't have been. It is just the new homes. In the past, the city had a program that addressed work on existing homes, and for a variety of reasons, it didn't work very well. It was very heavy on the administrative side, didn't increase a lot of value for homes, and so that was not renewed. I know that the city hasn't forgotten that there is a strong desire by the council to look into some of these alternative policies and programs, and it is on the list to be considered in the future.
Great. And that was, of course, my next point is just, I think, we know that there's a lot of folks who would love to be homeowners in Moorhead, but maybe can't afford new build. And I'd love to make sure that we can make homeownership available for them as well. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, Hendrickson moved, second.
Second.
Okay, and Gilbertson second. Could I get a vote, please?
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Gilbertson,
Aye.
Caroon,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Seljevold,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Lindos.
Yes.
Okay, public hearing has been closed. Could I get a motion on a resolution to adopt the abatement of property taxes?
Linda so moves.
Carew, second.
Okay, Lindos and then Caroon. Okay, any discussion? Councilmember Hendrickson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Would we have to remove that sentence in there? Is that sentence still in there? I mean, would we have to make a, just wondering.
Yep, what I did was I just, in the minutes, I said that that sentence will be removed prior to the final resolution being passed, or being signed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, could I get a roll call vote, please?
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Gilbertson,
Aye.
White,
Yes.
Caroon,
Yes.
Seljevold,
Aye.
Lindos,
Yes.
Hendrickson.
Aye.
Okay, and the resolution passes. Okay. Moving on to public hearing for final, do I say that?
Bituminous.
Bituminous.
Bituminous. I will practice that. Wearing course project. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Seljevold moves.
Second.
Second, Hendrickson. Could I get a roll call vote?
Gilbertson,
Aye.
Dahlquist,
Yes.
Caroon,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Seljevold,
Aye.
Lindos.
Yes.
Okay, public hearing is open, and I will turn it over to Assistant City Planner, or City Engineer, Tom Trowbridge.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. And we got a PowerPoint presentation that will pull up on the screen, and it's in the council packet. I will note that there were, I did find something in the council packet that I decided to change here, and that's on the assessment summary. There was a title where it said proposed assessments, or the information from the mailed notice, and it actually was based on the actual bids. And so in tonight's presentation, I've added a slide that shows what was mailed out, and then changed the title on that assessment summary to show the assessments based on the actual bids. So tonight is the public hearing on the final bituminous wear course project. This is for several subdivisions that about 5 years ago, the streets were constructed initially. And what we typically do is, in order to get the projects done in a timely fashion, because time is money, and if our clay soils are notoriously difficult to compact, they're wet and they're soft and squishy. And when they do all the utilities, they have to dig all that up and mess it up. And to get it recompacted, they would either have to spend a month drying it out or haul it all away and bring in some sand. That's not cost effective, so we do the best we can, get it compacted as well as they can, given the conditions. And then we allow it to settle for several years. And usually that's enough time, usually 2 or 3 years is enough time for that to work its way out. And that leaves us with some dips in the road that we'll fix with the final wear course later. Okay? And that's a common construction practice in the valley here. Okay? And so these three subdivisions, we have Horizon Shores 9th edition is one of them. And so again, it was platted in 2015. About 90% of the lots have been built on so far. And the road itself was constructed in 2016. And so it will now have been 5 years. For the developer's agreement, we say that we'll put it on anytime between 2 and 5 years after, and it is due to be put on now. And one of the issues that we'd look at is if we were to delay it further, it's important to understand that without this last 2 inches of asphalt, the road isn't at its full design strength. And on top of that, it doesn't drain properly, so it's hard to get the water off the street into the curb. And so it's not good for the street if we were to delay it any further. And then we're also doing a portion of Village Green 6th edition. So this is another one, that phase of that subdivision, the streets were built in 2016. And then we also have Stone Mill Estates 2nd edition. And that's another one where the streets were paved in 2016. So it's these 3 subdivisions that we're proposing to do the final wear course in. And this map shows how they relate to each other. So we mailed out a public notice, and so everybody got 2 weeks, or got the 10 days mailed notice. This is something that for assessed projects, if it's not petitioned, we have to follow this process. In this case, these subdivisions were petitioned, but it was petitioned 5 or 6 years ago by the developer. There's a lot of new owners now. So we don't technically have to hold the assessment hearing, but it's a good practice, gives people, they know what's coming and gives them a chance to comment on the improvements. So even though it's not totally required, it's good practice, so that's what we're doing. We mailed out 291 notices because that's how many benefiting properties there are. The mailing that we sent out was based on the engineer's estimate, and the actual bids came in about 20% lower than that. So what's important to note is if people keep this notice, when they get the next notice after we're done, they'll see that the dollar number that they're getting assessed should go down by about 20%. Okay, and that's good news. Anytime we go lower from the notice, that's good news, because if we tried to go higher, that would likely raise some complaints about it. And so what this shows, so this is what we mailed out. And so, for example, everybody in Village Green 6th edition was told to expect an assessment of $1,235. This next slide, actually, their assessment would be $960 based on the way the bids came in. So again, that's good news about that. When we set up the special assessments, we follow the way the original improvements were done, and developers have some choices in how that happens. And in Village Green 6th and Stone Mill Estates 2nd, those were, the lots were all almost the same size. And so the developers chose to divide the assessments equally on a per lot basis. And so we're proposing to do that for those as well. For Horizon Shores 9th edition, there was more variation in the lot sizes. And the developer for that one had chosen to do it more on the front footage. So you can see the Horizon Shores 9th has a range of assessments. The maximum one is still, it's only $2,370, so it's relatively low for the way special assessments are anyway, because the overlay project is usually not too large of a project. So for this project, the council initially ordered the report back in November, received the report, ordered the plans, and called for this hearing tonight. Back in January is when they did those actions, and we approved the plans. We received the bids on February 10th, and then tonight we're holding the hearing. At the close of the public hearing, we will ask that you order the improvements and make the declaration of intent to assess the project cost, and then also to award the bids. And then this project will get constructed this summer, and we would hold the final assessment hearing in the fall. So that concludes the presentation that I have. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Trowbridge. Any comments or questions? I can't see anybody on the screen, so. Councilmember Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Have you heard any from any citizens since those letters gone out?
I meant to say that we did get one phone call, and it was just questions. They were a corner lot, and so I think they were calling just to ask how the assessment was calculated. Were they treated differently than anybody else? And that one happened to be one of the ones in Village Green where their assessment was the same as everybody around them. But even for the Horizon Shores where the assessment is a front foot, we still do, we don't assess for the side lot. So it was just based on their actual front footage.
Thank you.
I cannot see if any of the council members who, okay, now I can. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Deb White, so moved.
Second?
Second.
Gilbertson seconds. Could I get a vote, please, Madam Clerk?
Dahlquist?
Yes.
Gilbertson?
Aye.
Caroon?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Seljevold?
Aye.
Hendrickson?
Aye.
Lindos?
Yes.
Okay. The meeting is closed. Can I get a resolution or a motion on items 10A and B? I'm assuming City Attorney Shockley, these could be done together?
Madam Mayor, that is correct.
Do I have a motion for 10A and B?
This is Steve Lindos. I'll make a motion to approve both resolutions 10A and 10B.
Lindos moves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Hendrickson seconds. Any discussion? Okay, could I get a roll call vote, please?
Dahlquist?
Yes.
Caroon?
Yes.
Gilbertson?
Aye.
White?
Yes.
Hendrickson?
Aye.
Seljevold?
Aye.
Lindos?
Yes.
Okay, and just like to state for the record, the motion has passed and both resolutions were passed. Thank you, Mr. Trowbridge and Dr. Zimmerman for bringing this to a public hearing, even though technically you are not required to do so. I appreciate that. And then next on the agenda would be item number 15, discussion regarding the process to fill the Ward 2 vacancy, and I will turn that over to City Attorney Shockley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With your selection as mayor, there is a vacancy in your position for council. The city charter prescribes a very specific procedure. So pursuant to section 2.06 subdivision 1H, a vacancy in a city council position can be created when a council member is elevated to the position of mayor. The charter then goes on to indicate that once the position is declared vacant, the council has to give public notice of the position, ask for interested applicants to apply for the position, and then the council will fill the position from the interested and qualified applicants. What the council has historically done in these positions is that tonight you would declare the position vacant. Then you would direct the city clerk and myself to post a notice in the newspaper asking for any person that is qualified within the ward who is interested in applying for the position to apply. Then the city council would interview the candidates that it desires to interview, and then at some point after that, it would make the selection. This is very much a process that the actual decision-making is deferred to the city council because it's purely a political matter, but I'm here to assist with the policy that you would like to undertake and and help you through that process procedurally.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Manager Molly, did you have some words to say?
No, none other than, we really appreciate the support by the council and the community to make this a smooth transition. So, thank you.
So it looks like the first thing that would need to occur would be to declare the position vacant.
That's correct, Madam Mayor. And then after that, you may want to have, I have a draft memo prepared. And then if the council wants to go forward with kind of a timeline, I can finalize that memo. And I can work with the city clerk to go ahead and work on getting the advertisement out for the position. But you're correct. The first step is for the council to declare a vacancy within the position.
Does that require a motion, second, and a roll call?
Correct.
Okay. Do I have a motion to declare the Ward 2 position vacant?
So moved, Deb White.
Second.
So White moves, Selja votes second. Could I get a roll call?
Dahlquist?
Yes.
Gilbertson?
Aye.
Caroon?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Lindos?
Yes.
Hendrickson?
Aye.
Seljavold?
Aye.
So the Ward 2 position has been declared vacant, and now the next motion would be to post notice of the vacancy.
Yeah, I would suggest what I would, maybe just a quick going over if the council is okay with what we're proposing for the process, is that we would go ahead, advertise for the position vacancy, give applicants 2 to 4 weeks. It's really up to the council to submit their application, and then schedule interviews with the council. I don't know if you wanted to have one session where you narrow down the applications to 3 members, or if you just want to wait and see how many people actually apply for the position.
Yes, we probably should just, I'm going to open it up for discussion to see what council members would like to see occur. I'm still not able to see people on the screen, so I'm not sure when people's hands are up. Councilmember Seljavold.
Well, I have a preference for 2 weeks, but when we get these applicants, how do you do that? You interview them here? Can we have a closed meeting with them, or what would be the process?
So you cannot have a closed meeting with them. This is not subject to an exception under the Minnesota Open Meetings Law. What the council has historically done is they will historically they've narrowed down the list of people to interview to 3 to 5 people that they're interested in the position. And so I think there's only been one time where the council has received more than 5 applicants, and they narrowed it down, and then they just reviewed the applications and had a short interview in public with each of the people who are interested in the position. It's not like a traditional job in that this is truly a policy decision. As long as they're qualified to hold office, you can pick whichever one of the applicants you want.
Okay. Any more questions?
Well, when you say you can narrow it down, how do you do that? I mean, if you get 5 and you say, well, I want to talk to these 3, how do you do that without having a meeting or?
Well, what has historically happened, and you can't really do that without having a meeting, is that the clerk and I can assist you, and we just go, if we had 3 or 4 council members that were interested in interviewing an applicant, we'd put them on a list, and then if you still had too many to interview, then we'd ask for if there's 5 council members interested in interviewing the applicant, and just through the process of consensus, work it down to a list of people that, a more manageable list of people to interview.
Councilmember Dahlquist has her hands up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So when they apply, there's going to be some kind of an application that we can read, that we can all read. Can that be possible? That those that apply, we get to at least look at their application before we narrow them down so everyone gets a chance to look at it?
Councilmember Dahlquist, absolutely. In the past, we've asked for application and then a brief cover letter about why they want to be on the city council. And then that's information that the council can review and use how you see fit.
Okay. Any other questions, Councilmember Dahlquist?
No, I just don't like the idea of selecting a few council members to narrow it down. I think everyone wants to have a say in it, so I would prefer that everyone gets say on how to narrow it down instead of choosing just a small group.
Thank you, Councilmember Dahlquist. Councilmember White.
Thank you, Mayor. Two questions. One, just taking a step back, could we talk about what questions are in the application? So what information are we gathering ahead of time that we would use to evaluate them? And will there be a way that we could allow for citizen input? So perhaps we could either at the beginning or after we've narrowed them down, that we put information out there so that if citizens in Moorhead wish to give some feedback, that we would be able to receive that information.
So the application that we've historically used is the same application that we would normally have people submit for service on different committees, whether that's planning and zoning or charter commission or one of the other committees. If there are additional questions that you would like to ask, what I could propose is maybe the city clerk and myself, we could get an application out to the city council, and then if tell us what questions you'd like to ask in addition. As for the process, if you want to have additional citizen input, that's entirely up to the council. I mean, it's truly a political process. Once the person is qualified, it's up to the council who can get five or majority of the council to vote in their favor. Of course, they have to be from the proper ward and be a registered voter. Once they meet those qualifications, it's wide open.
Okay, Councilmember Lindas.
Thank you, Mayor Carlson. I guess Deb asked the one question that I was going to ask is process questions. And so I think that's kind of clear. Although it brings up a whole nother can of worms of, are those the right questions to be asking people when they're interested in serving on boards? But that's for another discussion at some point. So going back to Councilmember Stelzgevold's comment, I am also in favor of at least 2 weeks for people to get their applications in. And so that would mean not next council meeting, but probably the following one, that we would have the opportunity to work through the process. And just to reiterate so that I'm hearing this correctly, when people apply, their application materials, whatever those questions and information is going to be available to everyone. And if we decide to narrow it down, it would be a count, everyone in the council saying, these are the people I would like to interview. And I think that's what I understood you saying, Attorney Shockley.
Thank you, Councilmember Lindas. That is correct. Typically, the entire council would do the narrowing down process. And when just a further clarification, when I was talking about candidates getting 3 or 4 council members interested in them, the process of narrowing down the applicant pool, if you have 10 applicants and, you're trying to narrow it down, if 3 council members think somebody's worth interviewing, it allows a way to narrow down the list. It wasn't meant to be referencing that you'd have a subcommittee of 3 council members, just you have to have a process to narrow down the applicants a little bit. And I would also note that during the interview, you can certainly, you can't ask any question. I mean, there are certain questions that just frankly wouldn't be appropriate to ask, but you can answer any or ask any policy questions. I mean, it is truly a political process in that you're the ones that get to decide who to appoint.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I remember, I went through this, what was it, 4 years ago, John, 3? And we did who council people were interested in, and with citizen feedback, we got tons of emails, so I don't think that'll be a problem. Just letting you know, I'm for, you know, who wanted to represent them in the second ward, and we got them from across the city, not just the second ward, so I don't think that'll be a problem at all. Thank you.
Councilmember Hendrickson, you are correct. The last time we appointed a new council member, I believe it was when Councilmember Haney was elected to the Clay County Commission, and I believe there was only 3 or 4 applicants at the time, and the council interviewed all of those applicants, and there was lots and lots of emails to the council. And staff, this is truly a political decision. We forwarded all the emails to the council, so.
By the way, did I say that? I'm in favor of the 2 weeks. Thanks.
Councilmember Hendrickson. Councilmember Kroon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just another question about the communication process. How, besides the putting a notice in the paper, are there any other methods that we're going to use to let folks from the ward know that this position is open?
So, great question. What we've historically done is we put it in a newspaper, put it on the city website, and as council members, certainly if there's somebody in the ward that you know would be interested in the position, they could apply for it. I believe the last time we also notified the previous candidates that were in the ward that had run for the position that weren't successful to see if they were also interested. So, I mean, if there are other notification ways that you want us to proceed, we can certainly include that. We're trying to be as inclusive and as open as possible.
Any other additional questions, Councilmember Kroon?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'm assuming what you would need direction from the council is to what type of application and when the advertisement and in what ways it should be advertised?
So, Madam Mayor, what I would propose, if the council could direct the city clerk and myself, we will prepare a draft application. We'll circulate that with the council. I would note that to a certain extent, the application is really to establish the person's basic qualifications for the position, because I mean, I keep saying this, but it is truly a political position. I don't think that there's you don't go to school to be in the position. And so it's just to establish their basic qualifications. And then we usually ask, and maybe this is more appropriate in the cover letter, ask why they're interested in the position for city council. And we can share that information with the council, get some feedback from the council. And then as soon as we get the feedback from the council, we can go ahead and publish the notice with maybe the due date for applications would be the end of March. So you could take up the interviews in your first meeting in April. That would give sufficient time for people to apply. And it would also give us sufficient time to finalize the application, the notice, and get the materials out. It just based upon what I was hearing, kind of a consensus of, I think, where the council would like to go.
Councilmember Kroon, your hand is up. Did you have a comment or a question?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, your hand is down. Okay. So you're looking for likely a deadline for the draft application circulation to the council, that a deadline to get feedback to you. And then also information about when that due date should be for the applications to be submitted.
Madam Mayor, maybe to make it a little easier for the council, maybe tonight, if there's a general consensus with proceeding that way, I'll finalize the memo with the timelines and we'll get the application out, and then you can provide some input if that looks appropriate. But just more of a high-level consensus if that timeline seems appropriate. Or, I mean, I don't know if there's a criticality of appointing somebody in 2 weeks, but just in general, if that timeline would work for the council, with proposed interviews generally being the first meeting in April.
Councilmember Lindas?
Sorry, Madam Mayor. Attorney Shockley actually just elicited exactly what I was going to propose, was that we basically give him and staff a week. I would think would be reasonable to put together a memo and get consensus from council on the process. And then once that memo is out and we start advertising, give applicants at least 2 weeks to get their materials in, and then we can consider them as council.
Councilmember Lindas, is that a motion?
Sorry, that I was going to express that as a motion, yes.
Is there a second? Okay, Councilmember Hendrickson seconds. Any other further discussion?
Can I get a clarification on the dates of this? I mean, it's like, when you say 2 weeks, I mean, we're meeting on the 8th and the 22nd. Can we be like, we want all the applicants in by the 22nd of March? I'm looking at Steve on the computer and it's like turning my head, but.
I was going to say February 29th is next Monday, so we'll have a memo done. And then 2 weeks from that, I was trying to get my calendar up. And so whoever has the calendar can figure out what that date is. Would be at least that time, and then we would consider them. Where I'm leaving some wiggle room is once we get the number of candidates in, we're going to have a discussion on how to actually do the selection process. And I think that can be handled once we know the number of candidates that we actually have. If we get 3 candidates, I speculate that we'll say, let's interview all 3. If we get 30 candidates, I don't think we're going to want to interview 30.
So was that a friendly amendment to Councilmember Lindas's motion to put the dates in, Councilmember Seldgevold?
Well, I'm still 2 weeks, and so I'm just looking for hard dates. That's what I'm looking at, so.
Madam Mayor, I had planned on in the memo that we prepare to actually have, more precise dates so the council could take some time to reflect on that. I kind of have a general idea what the council wants from a consensus standpoint. And if we have to adjust the dates, a couple weeks forward or a couple weeks backwards, I think we can do that. But I already have a draft memo prepared. I just was looking for input tonight from the council, so it actually won't take terribly long. We should have the memo out in the next couple of days with the draft materials for your review. So I think we would be ready to probably start publishing right after the 29th, or I guess next week would be the first week in March, we'd be ready to start advertising.
So Councilmember Lindas, are you okay with going forward with Councilmember Lindas's motion and allowing staff to look at the dates? Or do you want more specific dates? Okay, so going back to the original motion from Councilmember Lindas with a second by Hendrickson, is there any other further discussion? Okay, hearing none, could I get a roll call vote?
Dahlquist?
Yes.
Gilbertson?
Aye.
Caroon?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Seldgevold?
Aye.
Hendrickson.
Aye.
Lindas.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. And City Attorney Shockley, was that all that was needed from City Council tonight?
Yes, yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda is Mayor and Council reports. Any council member reports? Councilmember Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple things here. I am a part of the political action committee that is dealing with the statewide multimodal transportation plan, and that needs to be updated every, I think it's 3 years. And what that is, it's basically saying it'll lay out the state's transportation objectives and strategies for the next 20 years. So we got together via Teams and discuss what could be made better with Minnesota roadways and that type of thing. And we came away with focus areas in the top 5 were aging infrastructure, climate change, economy and employment, equity, safety, and transportation options. So we're going to meet again on April 16th to discuss the recommendations from the state board, the officials, and just discuss those and, you know, just keep talking about it. And the second thing, we had a Moorhead Public Service meeting on Tuesday, and, you know, that was the day of the rolling blackouts. So just want to commend Moorhead Public Service and Travis Schmidt on doing a great job. We only had one blackout. I think they were warned maybe 30 minutes beforehand, so they didn't have time to get a press release out. And I thought they handled it very well, so my kudos to them. And then another thing is we did pass the 2-year, we gave users 2 years to pay back any outstanding debt. So, and that was a recommendation from the City Council. So, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Hendrickson. Councilmember White. You're muted, Councilmember White.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to loop back, first of all, to our discussion tonight, and I wanted to say how much I appreciated the opportunity to hear from Senator Eakin and Representative Keeler about the election reform bill and the option for local control for our electoral processes. And I just think in light of that discussion that of the bill before the Minnesota legislature, that I would like to see if we could have the staff draft a resolution of support for the bill, so that we could further explore this and deliberate it at our next meeting. And so what I'm asking is if they would draft this resolution really in 2-part. It's not asking us to change our electoral process, but merely asking whether we wish to support a bill that would allow us to have local control of our electoral process. And then the second issue would be whether or not we wish to support a movement by the state to allow for ranked choice voting to be used as the state and federal level. And I just think we would have that opportunity to deliberate it as well as get citizen input. We could choose to support one or both or neither of those, but it would just give us that opportunity to explore it further. And then I do hope we can talk about that for a minute, but I also just wanted to take a moment to respond to one of the comments that was made tonight, that there was disparaging comments that were unsubstantiated comments about our most recent election. And I just wanted to reiterate that we know that our city staff, our county staff and volunteers worked hard to maintain hard and with integrity to make sure that we had fair and honest elections. And I personally wanted to thank them for their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Councilmember Dahlquist.
Thank you, Mayor. I have for the last week, a coalition of greater Minnesota cities has been putting on a lot of webinars. We actually can ask questions too, and they've had them on housing, and they've had them on some bonding bills that they want to get passed. And so it gave me a chance to meet some other senators and representatives, which was really interesting, which I don't usually get a chance to do. Also, I did receive some email about mask wearing in the city. And I want to encourage everyone to keep wearing masks. We're still under a mandate. And we just need to be really careful and think about others. And there's other strains that are out there. And until we all start getting vaccinated, and I know Clay County has been so good about getting information out, and the state has been good about getting the information out, and vaccinations are coming. We have the facilities to do it. It's just we just don't have the vaccines yet. So please be patient out there and keep wearing your masks. And I guess that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dahlquist. Councilmember Lindas.
Thank you for the council members for what they said before. And just as a scientist, I have to reiterate the single most important thing you can do is wear a mask. It's showing respect and care for those around you in the community. And it's a little bit hard right now because our numbers are coming down. The slope is negative, which is great, fantastic. And but we still have a lot to do to get out of this pandemic. So I just want to loop back before I give the majority of my report but to Councilmember White's comment, I'm also in favor of having the staff draft a resolution of support. I view these bills as local control, and I think that everyone, especially if you're a city, you would like to have local control. And so I don't know if we should go around and just nod heads. If that would be, if people would be willing to have the staff draw such a resolution. I thought we should pause and make sure that we know that the staff knows what direction they're getting from council.
Going to turn this over to City Manager Molly to respond.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. That would be good to get some sort of indication. What I'm hearing, just for clarification, is this isn't about ranked choice voting at all, so much as it is a procedural recommendation related to bills, or a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate, on how local governments choose to do elections and local choice.
Is that correct, Councilmember Lindas and Councilmember White?
Yeah, so this is House Bill 89 and Senate Bill 218.
And if there is interest, I mean, we could certainly, if directed by council, draft a resolution related to those bills as part of our legislative advocacy work to be put on the March 8th City Council agenda.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Lindas.
So just to finish my report, I guess one of the things I agree with Councilmember White, it would be nice to have a discussion of this. Clearly our neighbors across the river are using a similar type of people's choice approval voting, which they've used now successfully in their elections for city commission. So reports. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Cities, I view as, we're really about infrastructure, right? Infrastructure for people. So when you talk about parks or the new really cool and exciting food forest that's going in north Moorhead, and I think that the only criticism, overwhelming support. I mean, it's very difficult to imagine the I don't know, it was a 97% support, more than that, 99% support for this. The criticism really was, why can't it be closer, more in the south and other places in Moorhead? But there's infrastructure for business that the city is involved in. So two recent committee meetings that I've gone to, one was the airport committee, and setting essentially priorities for planning for the future. There is a lot of untapped potential at the airport. I think it's exciting when you look at the businesses and the opportunities, and potentially there needs to be a little investment that we will have an opportunity to debate as a city and as a council. But ultimately, there's some great opportunity at our airport. And The other committee meeting that we went to was the MetroCog, the policy board, and there's a lot of things going on from the Clay County perspective. There's a comprehensive and transportation plan that's going to be getting kicked off, and so I urge people to participate in that. We're part of the county and synergistically working with them to improve our roadways and other infrastructure is something that's very useful. In particular, one of the things that we have to recognize is our watershed sits in Clay County and is crucial not just to our city in Dilworth, but to other residents in the county. The other thing that the MetroCog was doing is we are doing some traffic counting, and so I just want to make people aware of that kind of not annual, but a really useful process that's going on. So we'll have better traffic counts, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lindas. Anyone else? Okay. For mayor report, well, I can tell you that it's been a crazy 2 weeks for me. I do want to thank everybody who sent words of congratulations through Facebook, through email, sent cards, flowers. It was very overwhelming, and it has been a whirlwind of 2 weeks. A lot of my committees I'm no longer on, but several council members have taken over some of my committee appointments, so I want to thank them for doing that. I'm also now taking over former Mayor Judd's position as a chair of the diversion committee, which I'm trying to get caught up on that. So the one thing I did do, though, I did represent Moorhead at the Fargo Vets Center in downtown Fargo last Saturday in the Derby. Unfortunately, I did not win. I was not able to defend Mayor Judd's championship first place, but I was excited for Mayor Dardis from West Fargo, who won for the first time. So congratulations to Mayor Dardis. That is all I have right now. So I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Molly for his report.
Thank you, Mayor. And I have to say, you're off to a great start. Thank you for the last 2 weeks. We've been spending quite a bit of time together, and thanks for your interest and eagerness and care, concern for this community. It's wonderful to be a part of. You know, one thing I would like to just check in on real quick is this is related to the subject along this bill on election types. I've heard when, you know, if we're going to be directed to put a resolution together, I'd be happy we can do that. But I've heard from Councilmember White and Councilmember Lindas. Is this something you'd like us to draft and place on the next agenda? Okay, good to know. Thank you. So how about online? I mean, head nods. Anything? Okay. I see 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I've got kind of a split here. Oh. I guess this means, I'll talk with the mayor. How's that sound? Very good. Thank you. I wanted to mention that on February 18th, there was the first public meeting related to mosquito management operations in town. And so there's another one coming up on March 3rd at 4:30. I will let you know that information will be publicized, as well as opportunities to participate virtually, whether that be interacting online or on the phone. So look for that. And we're still identifying whether we'll be hosting it out of this facility right here or out of the Fargo City Council chambers. The first was heavily informational, and then this next one will be more engaged. And at some point this coming spring, the contract with Vector Control will be before you. So just know that is coming. I want you to also know that the state has indicated it's called a vaccine connector, whereby you can, sign up and make connecting to vaccines. It says it'll alert you about eligibility, connecting to resources, schedule an appointment, and opportunities in the area. So this is a hope. The goal here is to help make things easier, safer, and secure in terms of signing up. And so if you're interested, it's just minnesota.gov/vaccine connector, or you can call 651-318-0989. And then the last thing I'll mention is a virtual coffee with Mayor Carlson that is scheduled on Thursday, March 11th from 6 to 7 p.m. This is a forum with seniors, so that'll be really nice. These coffees have gone on since Mayor Del Rey's time, and they're just a nice way to check in. This is a first in terms of focusing. In the past it's been citywide, it's been related to wards. This one is a forum with seniors. In the coming year, we're looking at a forum with the business community and youth. So this is a first, and all are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Molly. And I appreciate you mentioning that. I had forgotten to mention the coffee with the seniors. And there'll be a lot of information that'll be disseminated out on our website and Facebook and so on, so that they can get the call-in number. The Zoom link, or WebEx link, I guess is what it's called. Next on the agenda is an executive session. First, get a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second, Deb White.
Gilbertson and White. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
My apologies. Dahlquist?
Yes.
Gilbertson?
Aye.
Caroon?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Soldivold?
Aye.
Hendrickson?
Aye.
Lindas?
Yes.
Okay, now we will be going into executive session.
We'll be going right into the Oak Room next door.
Okay. And then we will come back after this session. Okay, we are back out of executive session, which was pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 13D .04 for labor negotiations, and also a closed executive session pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D .05, subdivision 3C3, for the purpose of developing offers or counteroffers for the sale of real property described as parcel number 58.900.1981, having an abbreviated legal description of approximately 20 acres of section 34, township 140, range 48. Can I get a motion to approve resolution on 18B?
So moved.
Second?
Second, Lindas.
Hendrickson moved and Linda second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Dahlquist?
Yes.
Gilbertson?
Aye.
Caroon?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Seljevold?
Aye.
Hendrickson?
Aye.
Lindas?
Yes.
The resolution passes. Next on the agenda is any new business. And then last, any additional citizens who wish to address the council.
Mayor, I have a request to speak form from Moorhead resident Janine Hansen.
Ms. Hansen, please come forward. Thank you for coming today. Again, if you could state your name and your address, and then we will start the 3-minute clock.
Okay. Janine Hansen, and I'm in Ward 3 of Moorhead. And I hadn't planned to speak, but I heard that there was going to be a resolution possibly in support of the House and Senate bill presented by Kent Heekin. And I just would oppose that. I think it seems to be a pretty partisan, or I don't know what to call it, bill. And since this is a nonpartisan body, I just don't think that would be appropriate. And I did, and someone mentioned that, Fargo had made this change. And I did speak to somebody in Fargo, and actually that person didn't think it was a good idea. And also, comparing Fargo and Moorhead is like comparing apples and oranges, I believe. So I even did a little bit of research this afternoon at the library, and even the former California governor, Jerry Brown, vetoed a bill to expand ranked choice voting in California. And it was reported that he said it was overly complicated and confusing and deprived voters of genuinely informed choice. And that came from an Associated Press article in October of 2016. So I just would hope that we would not do that resolution. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Ms. Hansen. Any other citizens wishing to address the council? Madam Clerk? No? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to adjourn the council meeting?
Madam Mayor, it looks like we have someone online.
I'm here to address the council.
Councilmember Kroon, could you say that again? We couldn't quite hear you.
I was just saying, it looks like we have one online.
Look, Mr. Hahn is back to speak again. He put it in the chat.
Okay, we can't see the chats at the council meeting. So typically, individuals need to call in through the number because the chats are considered part of, I don't know why I'm getting a lot of feedback here. Part of what would be a legal document, or I'm not sure exactly how that works, Madam Clerk, if you, or City Attorney Shockley, if you could address the chats and why we're not able to see them here at council chambers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The chats would become part of the, and we're getting more feedback, they would just become part of the meeting. I think certainly if the council wanted to allow somebody to speak during the citizens address in council, you certainly could, with the reminder that they, people wishing to speak should be following that proper protocol and calling in through the number. It helps to manage the public comments and keep them documented for the record.
Thank you so much. Seeing that this was kind of the first time, Mr. Hahn, we'll let you speak again, and we will start the 3-minute clock again. But for future reference, for other citizens, the chat box does not work, and we typically will not be monitoring that, and citizens would need to call in if they would like to make a statement during the portion of the council meeting where citizens would address the council. So with that, Mr. Hahn, we'll let you speak again, and if I could have the city clerk start the 3-minute clock again. Thank you.
Edwin Hahn, I live in Moorhead, Minnesota. I'm addressing agenda item number 20, public comment. So let this be on the record regarding the council discussion today on ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting is very complex, and that means more opportunities for errors, voter errors, and counting errors. It does not represent people's choices. A candidate with less than 25% of the votes can be elected. Voters fatigue. That means they do not vote for all candidates because there are too many candidates on the ballot to perform due diligence. Ranked choice voting is a scheme to disconnect elections from issues and allow candidates with marginal support from voters to win. It obscures true debates and issue-driven dialogues among candidates and eliminates genuine binary choices between two top-tier candidates. It also disenfranchises voters because ballots that do not include the two ultimate finalists are cast aside to manufacture a fake majority for the winner. It's primarily driven by the left to game the voting system and gain power. So the reality of it is that it's presented as a mechanism for the minority to be heard, where in reality, it actually floods the candidates, floods the system with candidates of one side, so those candidates and that side wins. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hahn. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn the council meeting tonight?
So moved. Second.
Seldavold and then Hendrickson. Thank you, Moorhead. Stay safe and stay healthy.